Imagine waking up every day in the 1930s to skies so dusty it looks like an apocalypse. You're a farmer just trying to grow some wheat. Welcome to the Dust Bowl.
America accidentally turned the Great Plains into the Great Desert. Let's talk about how we got there, how it went, and all the awkward lessons we learned along the way. So here's the deal. Farmers in the 1920s were like, grass? Who needs that? They pulled out millions of acres of native grassland to plant wheat because, everybody loves bread. For a while it worked until the rain decided to go on a permanent vacation until the 1930s. The wind pulled up dust and dirt from the dried land and left it in the air. This caused severe dust storms to rage. Some gusts of wind during a certain storm could have gone up to 60 miles per hour. Farmers and families ignored the fact that the great clouds were getting bigger and closer. There were rims of dust rising on the horizon that looked like a mountain ranges.
Okay, let's talk about the storms, also known as black blizzards. Sounds kind of cool, right? Wrong. Dust would blow in and cover everything. Your crops, your house, your lungs. It stretched 150,000 square miles, or 100 million acres, across Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandles, and parts of Colorado, Kansas, and New Mexico. Some storms were so big they traveled thousands of miles, even dumping dirt on cities like New York and Washington, D.C. Around 7,000 people died from dust pneumonia or breathing in too much dusty air during this time. When people awoke the morning after a storm, the only clean place on their whole bed would be where their head had laid on the pillow. Dust was everywhere. On the floor, in hair, eyes, ears, teeth, throats, walls, and dishes. If there was air, there would be dust, being carried with the wind everywhere. Imagine trying to cook dinner while everything, including your food, is covered in a fine layer of dirt. It was basically like seasoning your life with sand.
Cattle would die of suffocation because the dirt would clog their noses and mouths. Because of the drought and dust, 2.5 million people fled. But when they left their homes, they started new and with nothing, leaving them poverty-stricken. In their new towns, they were discriminated against, treated poorly in the workplace, and given minimal wages. The Dust Bowl hit farmers like a freight train. Crops failed, livestock died, and people started packing up their lives in search of greener pastures. Families nicknamed Okies left the states like Oklahoma and Kansas and headed to California.
Instead of the 14 storms in 1932 that were classified as the worst, there were 38 in 1933 alone. A storm one April lasted 24 hours. The rims of dust would get closer and closer until you were engulfed. You wouldn't be able to see the sun, everything around you was black and covered in dust made of sand and dirt. One personal account says that one storm was so black and thick with dust that she couldn't see her own hand in front of her face. Drifts of dirt compacted together so high around barns and homes that some said they could walk straight onto the roof with no ladder.
Storm clouds had different colors. New Mexico had one color, and then Oklahoma coming from another direction would be another color. When there was another storm color, you'd be able to say, well, we're enjoying a bit of Oklahoma today, or we're getting a visit from all the Texans today, and so forth. Some clouds were made of these fine particles of soil, while others were sandier. These sandy storm clouds could take the paint off your automobile or house, just like sandpaper being rubbed against it. The scariest kind was the fine particle clouds that would rise up to 8,000 feet in the air, a complete wall of dirt and sand coming towards you.
So after years of dirt-filled chaos, the government finally stepped in under Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs. They created the Soil Conservation Service to teach farmers how to stop hurting the land. Policy measures were passed to improve farming techniques, improve conservation tactics, and regional adjustments progressed to weather pattern shifts. Because of the Dust Bowl, the government introduced and promoted crop rotation to reduce the chances of having another drought.
Farmers learned techniques like planting windbreaks, and oh yeah, maybe not ripping out all the grass. The government also paid farmers to plant trees to block the wind. Slowly but surely, things started to improve. But a lot of businesses were lost and people left their homes. This unemployment contributed to the Great Depression. The Dust Bowl drought lasted from 1930 to 1936, and they didn't receive regular rainfall until 1939. The Dust Bowl left a huge mark in America. It reminded everyone that messing with the environment has consequences. The Great Plains eventually recovered, but it took years of effort, better farming practices, and a lot of rain finally showing up again. Today, we will talk about the Dust Bowl because it taught us not what to do. Want to ruin millions of acres of land? Step 1, overfarm everything. Step 2, pray doesn't rain for a decade. Before we wrap up, here are a couple fun facts about the Dust Bowl. Some storms were so bad that static electricity built up in the air People would literally get shocked by touching each other. Kids wore goggles to school to keep the dust out of their eyes, which sounds cool until you realize it wasn't a fashion statement. And here's another one. Storms were so intense that people in the Great Plains started calling the area the Dust Bowl, but unofficially it was also known as the Dirty 30s. So what can we learn from the Dust Bowl? First, don't mess with grass, it's more important than it looks. Second, treat the land with respect, or it'll come back to haunt you in the form of your sand and your cereal. Thanks for listening. Remember, if you ever feel like your day is bad, just imagine living in the Dust Bowl and finding dust in your toothbrush. Suddenly your problems seem a little smaller.